जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। यमुना तीरवनचारी। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा मदन मोहन राधा मदन मोहन राधा मदन मोहन जय राधे। राधा मदन जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय जलदेवा जय सुभद्र देवी। जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय विष्णुपाद परम परिव्राज काचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से गौ जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय श्री श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय और ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees हरे कृष्ण all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 21st verse, 21st chapter, chapter entitled Instructions by Maharaj Prithu, and verse number 50, right? Yeah, okay. Natyadbhutamidam natha, natyadbhutamidam natha, tava jivyanusasanam. तवा जीव्यानुशासनम् प्रजानुरागो महताम् प्रकृतिः करुणात्मनाम् प्रकृतिः करुणात्मनाम् नात्यद्भुतमिदं नाथ तवा जीव्यानुशासनम् प्रजानुरागो महताम् प्रकृतिः करुणात्मनाम् नात्यद्भुतमिदं नाथ तवा जीव्यानुशासनम् प्रजानुरागो महताम् प्रकृतिः करुणात्मनाम् नात्यद्भुतं तवा जीव्यानुशासनम् प्रजानुरागो महताम् प्रकृतिः करुणात्मनाम् नात्यद्भुतमिदं नाथ तवा जीव्यानुशासनम् प्रजानुरागो महताम् प्रकृतिः करुणात्मनाम् ना not ati very great adbhutam wonderful idam this natha o lord tava your ajivya ajivya source of income Anushasanam, ruling over the citizens. Praja, citizens. Anuraga, affection. Mahatam, of the great. Prakrutihi, nature. Karuna, merciful. Atmanam, of the living entities. Translation. Our dear Lord, it is your occupational duty. I think repeated, right? Okay. Our dear Lord, it is your occupational duty to rule over your citizens. That's not a very wonderful task. For a personality like you, who are so affectionate in seeing to the interests of the citizens, because you are full of mercy. That is the greatness of your character. ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्. Purport. A king's duty is to give protection to his citizens and levy taxes from them for his livelihood. Since the Vedic society is divided into 4 classes of men, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras, their means of livelihood are also mentioned in the scriptures. The Brahmanas should live by spreading knowledge and should therefore take contributions from their disciples, whereas a king should give protection to the citizens for their development to the highest standard of life, and he can therefore levy taxes from them. Businessmen or mercantile men, because they produce foodstuffs for the whole society, they can take a little profit from this, whereas the Sudras, who cannot work as either Brahmanas, Kshatriyas or Vaishyas, should give service to the higher classes of society and be provided by them with a supply of the necessities of life. The symptom of a qualified king or political leader is mentioned herein. He must be very merciful and compassionate to the people and see to their prime interest, which is to become elevated devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Great souls are naturally inclined to do good to others. In fact, this is a theme, one of the theme of Prithu Maharaja's character. Great souls are naturally inclined to do good to others, and a Vaishnava especially is the most compassionate and merciful personality in society. Therefore, we offer our respects to a Vaishnava leader as follows. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Only a Vaishnava leader can fulfill all the desires of the people. Vancha kalpataru. And he is compassionate because he is a contributor of the greatest benefit to human society. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Vaishnava is the contributor of the greatest benefit to human society. He is Patita Pavana, the deliverer of all fallen souls, because If the king or the head of the government follows in the footsteps of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, who are naturally leaders in the missionary work, the Vaishyas will also follow in the footsteps of the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, and the Sudras will give them service. Thus, the entire society becomes a perfect human institution for combined progress to the highest perfection of life. As usual, Srila Prabhupada wrote in a very, very profound manner. So much Prithu Maharaj instructions are so much packed with instructions, very, very uplifting and very practical. Particularly, they are very, very relevant when there is a community together living, like a society or society. When they're living, uh, how to live in a Krishna-centered way and mutually recognizing the mutual dependence. This is one of the nature of Vedic culture. In Vedic culture, people very much, each member of the society very much mindful of it, mindful of how others are contributing to the overall welfare of the society. This is one of the parameter. So this is the fourth canto. By that time, it means it is expected that first three cantos and part one of the fourth canto have been completed. In other words, the principles in those cantos, it is expected that they have been followed, and then they reach this canto. And this canto is, this part of this canto is, it enumerates the loving relationships. And one of the um, indication is in Prithu Maharaj's instructions, if we closely observe, he did not say that each of the member, hey, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. But Srila Prabhupada titled his instructions by Maharaj Prithu. Because when loving relations are there, the direct instructions rather than the direct instructions, the instructions based on recognizing the other's love, that works very well. This is one of the criteria in mutual relations, in relations. So what Prithu Maharaj said, he glorified the contribution of pure devotees in this world. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, many times in this purport, he wrote about the Vaishnava, how his work is a very, very great benefit to the society. What is that benefit? What is that benefit? The benefit is whatever the antisocial elements create the disturbances in the minds of citizens, they will be removed by the pure teachings of Vaishnava. There are so many antisocial elements that disturb the society, of which, the disturbances, the prominently which comes forefront is terrorism. But terrorism is a very, very weak way of disturbing the society. There are more other things which disturb the society very much. Society means the members of the society. Members of the society means their mind and their way of living, their way of thinking. Anything which forces them to, work hard, accumulate, and then so many big, big things, it's actually disturbance. It's actually disturbance because they can't satisfy them. That's why it is disturbance. Like for example, I know some of people who became in civil services, they became, some level of officers. And then when they come to their superior officers, and then they feel some insecurity, some unhappiness, because they don't become like the superior. So there's a disturbance. And similarly, so many disturbances in society. So a king here, he has to offer the protection to the citizen. So what is the protection? The protection is the intended purpose of the human life should not be wasted. What is the intended purpose of human life? To reach the shelter of the Supreme Lord. That is the intended purpose. We are all meant for that purpose. If that is not fulfilled, then it is simply waste of their lives. Whatever they do, it will not satisfy them. In that sense, it is a waste. It is waste not in the sense that, sometimes people say, how it is waste? We are helping so many people, we are, distributing so much wealth and so much this and that, we are doing to the society so much. How it is a waste? It is waste because it cannot satisfy you. You may be, one may be a donator of, say, 1,000,000 rupees. If someone donates, say, 5 million people and this person feels insecurity, that is why that disturbance will go forever. There won't be any end, full stop to that. There won't be any full stop to that. So, Vaishnava, by giving the transcendental knowledge, he disseminates the transcendental knowledge and removes all kinds of sufferings from our lives. That's a Vaishnava. And here, Prithu Maharaj, he is two important qualities are mentioned here. He is affectionate, or compassionate and merciful. And a leader, there is a big topic in society, the leadership. When you say this is a leadership class, so many hundreds of people, thousands of people will attend. You know why? Because everyone wanted to become leader and dominate others. And Srila Prabhupada is identifying this is exactly the problem. The problem that we are facing, because of that all other problems will come forefront. So what is that problem? The dominating tendency. Somehow or the other, people dominate others. So that tendency, because it is a problematic, a king and brahmanas together, they have to give protection for the people from this tendency. From this tendency. It's their duty. It's their duty. But then should we not become leaders? Of course, we have to become leaders on behalf of Krishna. For Krishna. For whom we are becoming, or for whom we are doing, that should be remembered. Here, King Prithu is very much in remembrance that on whose behalf of he was ruling. On whose behalf of? Is Krishna's behalf of. And is their spiritual predecessors, behalf of them. Then what will happen, because of the strength of transcendental knowledge, the dominating tendency will be removed. Then what will happen when it will be removed? That's said in the translation. Seeing to the interests of the citizens. So this is a leadership quality. Leadership quality is not how, XYZ. Attracting people is fine, but it's not the sufficient quality. It's a necessary quality, but it's not a sufficient quality. One of the sufficient qualities is he has to see the interests of the people or interests of the dependents. So here, particularly the interests of those who are very willingly, selflessly contributing to the overall growth of the society. So that's a spiritual desire. And fortunately, we have tremendous opportunities in our society to satisfy Krishna by offering that kind of protection to whatever level we can. Whatever level we can. So this is one of the protection and a leadership quality in the form of protection. And another quality is protecting them from impurities. This is a very, very big protection. Very big protection. There are 6 impurities, right? We all know about them, right? 6 impurities. Of which a very hidden and, in a hidden way distress, particularly 2 things. Now, anger one can understand very easily. And lust one can understand. Pride one can understand. Of course, it's difficult than envy to understand pride. But the difficult thing is accumulation or greediness. It's a very, very subtle to understand. Greediness. Because this accumulation is not only on a physical platform. The accumulation will creep into the higher platforms also. So protection from these impurities. Illusion is very subtle. Illusion is very, very subtle. It's not easy the way we think to understand. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. Unless one purely takes shelter like Prithu Maharaj, he completely, in tune with the Lord's desires. Kamancha dashe natu kama kameya. This is Prahlad Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj's prayer. He uses this in last line. No, not in prayers. In describing Ambarish Maharaj's activities, this was said. Kamancha dashe natu kama kameya. It means one's desires should be in line to the spiritual superiors. In other words, on whom the confidence is there, yes, from these persons we can get a spiritual training, elevation to a spiritual platform. One have to try to be in line with. And that's what Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So many disciples. Of course, some felt little difficulty to come in tune with Srila Prabhupada's desires, but many of Srila Prabhupada's followers, they completely in tune with Srila Prabhupada's desires. And then they happily satisfied by doing service to him and his society as a result to Krishna. So that is in line. So here Prithu Maharaj, how he came in line with Krishna. There is an intent built in. Humility also is required to come in line with like that. So what was the example? That already happened in previous chapters, that Prithu Maharaj was completely in line with Krishna's desires. What happened when Indra stolen the horse which was intended to the Ashwamedha Yajna? Indra stolen the horse, right? So when he has stolen the horse, you know why he has chosen that? He has chosen that because that very horse had to be used in the sacrifice. If that horse was not used, then the sacrifice was incomplete. And Prithu Maharaj will not get the result of it. So Indra had this plan. And then he has stolen the horse to disturb the sacrifice. But somehow he found, he tried, and then finally Lord Vishnu appeared to Prithu. Indra also along with Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu said that, see, Indra wanted to be forgiven, so please forgive him. And Prithu Maharaj immediately, he was very much with the embracing mood with Indra. And then he forgotten whatever the negative things Indra did, he has forgotten. This is the person with the compassion. That's why Brahmanas are glorifying Prithu Maharaj. The compassion quality or forgiving quality is very much glorified. Very much glorified. Because it shows the controlling nature, the self-control nature of the person who is forgiving. Is forgiving. Generally, tit for tat, that mentality comes. Hey, you did this to me, I will not forget. And, an opportunity is there, that only comes to the mind. Right? Right? It comes. It comes. But that is very, very troublesome behavior. That behavior, the antidote for that behavior is a quality of forgiveness. So, the protection, so to give protection, it's required to practice these qualities. Or in other words, a leader has to exercise these qualities. The quality of forgiveness, quality of mercifulness. Otherwise, he cannot see the interests of the people, the spiritual interests particularly, he cannot see. He cannot help, he cannot be helpful, particularly for the propagation of the holy name. Propagation of the holy name. He cannot. To cater the spiritual desires is a very, very big topic. How Srila Prabhupada catered the spiritual desires is a very, very miraculous. Very, very miraculous. He did two things primarily. Number one, he encouraged the spiritual desires. And number two, he protected them, whoever accepting those services, he protected them from falling down. Protected them from falling down. Because as one moves forward in leadership positions, the things will come into their accessibility. So many things will come into their hands. Money will come, fame will come, and followers will come. So many will come. So many. And if one doesn't handle them in a suitable, appropriate manner, then those very things will cause and act as their fall down. Those very same things. This best example, at least to my knowledge, is Saubhari Muni. Saubhari Muni wanted, he was doing tapasya underwater. It's a very great, right? No one can live underwater. Because humans cannot breathe. But somehow he managed. He managed breathing. And then he lived. And he wanted to give protection to the fish. From whom? From Garuda. He thought it's a protection. But actually when Garuda is eating fish, those fish are getting the Vaikuntha forms. Because Garuda is bird, and bird's natural food is fish. No one should disturb the natural arrangement which was established by the Supreme Lord Krishna. No one can dare, should dare. No one should dare that, disturbing it. But due to some kind of covered ignorance or coward consciousness. So I thought that the fish, I had to protect the fish from Garuda. And as a result, that very same fish became the reason of his fall down. The reason of his fall down. Because when two fish come together for mating, and Saubhari Muni saw that, and immediately that imprinted in his mind and agitated the hidden portion of the heart. Hidden portion of the heart. Or at least he deviated from the path, if not fall down in a gross way. Or at least he deviated from his goal. So he deviated from the goal. So what is that leadership qualities, right? So as one progresses, one should be very vigilant. One should be very leader. It's not that leadership is a happy position. Mindful, one will get karma in a very, very severe way. If a wrong direction, wrong decision offered, wrong direction offered, it's a serious matter. It's a very serious matter. And that is why one of our Acharya in our Parampara, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he wrote a very wonderful book, very, very wonderful book. I like this book very much. Madhurya Kadambini. Very, very, it's a soap. It touches every aspect of, anarthas. Every aspect of anarthas. In a very comprehensive way. It's a very thin book, but it's a very, very powerful. And at the very beginning chapters of that book, he writes, that's a protection for the leaders. That's why I'm bringing that point. That is, by practicing devotion, if anything comes into your possession, as we discussed, right? As one becomes leader, so many things will come into their possession. Now, how to use those possessions? How one begins using those possessions? It depends on his mood. But what should be the leader's mood? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that by using them, if one, let's say positively, all those things must be used, number one, for bhakti. And this can be expanded for bhakti. It means, in the service of Krishna, in the growth of the others' devotion, one's own devotion and others' devotion. This should be the only purpose of the possessions. Whatever it is. We have a big house, use that for Krishna's happiness. If we have money, let's use for. If we have followers, let's use for Krishna's happiness. If we have some dependence, Krishna will give some dependence for everyone. So any dependents are there, use for Krishna's satisfaction. In other words, he says in one line, bhakti should be used to gain more bhakti. Bhakti should be used to gain more bhakti. Otherwise, be watchful. Krishna will send suitable circumstances to realize this statement. To realize this statement. It's already 8:56. So very, very, this Prithu Maharaj chapter, I like this very much. Just as a concluding remark, how much he gives, he acknowledges the role of Brahmanas in society. And Brahmanas are not less. The Brahmanas who were in presence of his court, They were not less. They appreciate the role of king. What for? There were instances in which the kings and brahmanas mutually come together to exploit people. There were instances like that. But that's a fallen example. It's not the right example. The right example is kings and brahmanas come together and they can do tremendous work to the society. In other words, now we don't have kings and these. Of course, we have brahmanas, but we don't have kings. So what to do? So the combination is some kind of administrators or some kind of pious people who have the facility of richness given by Krishna in their possession, and then the pure people. That combination is a very, very wonderfully works. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. He used the riches given by Krishna in some pious people's life, and then Srila Prabhupada had a tremendous power to use that in Krishna's service as a preaching. And it worked. So that's a relevancy for us. So recognizing the mutual dependency and recognizing the other services in relation to Krishna is a very crucial in relationships. Hare Krishna. Any comments? Otherwise we will end. Okay. Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, this Varnashrama system and
Probably
Daivi
little
Varnashrama.
louder. Yeah.
Varnashrama system is there and Daivi Varnashrama system is there.
Daivi Varnashrama. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, you want to know that? That's what your question?
No, in Daivi Varnashrama system also these four Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear, Prabhu. Please little louder.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. And Varnashrama system is there. And,
okay, Varnashrama system is there.
Daivi Varnashrama system also is there now, Prabhu.
Yes.
So in that system also this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is there, Prabhu? Or
should?
In both systems, these...
yeah, both are there, yes. Brahmana system is there.
My question is that in both systems, these four Varnas and Ashramas are there or not?
See, the system is whatever... See, there are different categories of the people. And their willingness to accept the system is also varies to the different degrees. So, when one says Asuri Varnashrama, or when one says Daivi Varnashrama, although Asuri Varnashrama is not good, but there is a kind of safety net for them not to go rampant to disturb the society or the resources of the the planet. Like for example, the materialistic family, they don't know Krishna, but they may do some sinful activities. But if one sticks to the family system, it's like a, there is a saying, right? Blind uncle is better than no uncle. But actually blind uncle, we have to do more work for him. So then how he is a better? He's a better, at least he will use his wisdom to give some suggestions. In that way, blind uncle is better than no uncle. Similarly, these Vaishnavas, Brahmanas are there. I mean, not Vaishnavas, I mean to say this system. I mean to say this Varna system is there in both ashramas. But it is fine. It is fine. There are some people who can't accept relatively higher level to come to the platform of Daivi Varnashrama. So let them, they will continue like that. It is there. It is there. Like another example is, like some people are addicted to free to results. Not now. I mean, from Vedic point of view. They have a lot of faith on Vedas. So in earlier days, they used to do the Vedic rituals or karmakanda activities, some kind of sacrifices to gain some results. So it means it's not, if we speak about Daivi Varnashrama, meaning Daivi Varnashrama means centered around Krishna, it was not there in those karmakanda activities. It won't be there. Ideally, the Brahmanas should bring the persons who are doing that karmakanda activities, the Brahmanas should bring them to the level of, to the platform that they should understand. Okay, you are doing free to rituals, but this is not all in all. There is something else higher. So that's the purpose. But if the performer of the sacrifice fail to do that, then it becomes Asuri Varnashrama, or in a negative way, or it's not helpful for them to come out of this world. So, but if that facility is not there, then they become crazy. They have to adopt the illegal means a lot. So that system is there in both. But it is encouraged to stay on the platform of Daivi Varnashrama. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. In another sense, sometimes we hear that, Vedic culture is like an elephant. Whether live or dead, it has its own benefits. This is the reason. Whether one follows strictly the Vedic rules or just as a habit, it has its own, nature to protect the people. Depending on the person's willingness to accept. On that level only the protection will be there. Not the, people follow the lower and then expect that protection higher level. That cannot happen. Hare Krishna. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.